Imagine waking up, checking your phone and realizing that the blockchain that you've been cheering for just got dunked on by its loudest cheerleader. Now that's exactly what's happened here with 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗔𝗡𝗧, yes, the Helios Labs CEO who bleeds Solana orange. Now he's tweeted that it's over for Solana because XRP is running circles around it. Now wait, what did I just say? The top Solana guy is actually waving an XRP flag. Now, I had to know just how deep this rabbit hole actually goes, and guess what? You're coming along for the ride. So, picture me, right? Speed walking to my desk, the coffee splashing, the cat judging, because when a dev turned CEO flips sides, well, the entire crypto village erupts. And before we kind of dive headfirst into the spicy stats, we have to address the elephant in the room. And this might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies, they are highly volatile and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. Your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video today is for entertainment and educational purposes only. You good? Cool? Alright, let's get back to Mert's kind of tweet mic drop then, right? One tweet, 10 words, it sparked 1,000 Reddit think pieces. Now he said that Solana doesn't have the technology to match XRP. Now if that's not the kind of blockchain equivalent of your favorite chef admitting that their rival's pizza tastes better, I don't know what is. And while everyone kind of scrambled for the hot takes, I started piecing together why XRP, the digital coin that mainstream media once called doll, suddenly looks like the star quarterback. So here's the first draw dropper then. Year to date, XRP is up roughly 4.8%, even after a post-pump wobble, while Solana is down more than 20% and Ethereum has face-planted by about 26%. That's kind of like running a marathon in flip-flops and, you know, still kind of breezing past these guys wearing Nike Vaporflies. But the headline number only scratches the surface, right? On a kind of 12-month zoomed out view, XRP is cruising at a 361% gain, while Solana clocks in at around 150%. So imagine your little drone overtaking a Boeing mid-flight. That is kind of the vibe here. And if you've been following the money flows, then you know that XRP pulled a smooth ninja move back in December, snatching the number 4 spot by market cap leaderboard right from under Solana's nose. Then BNB showed up, pushed Solana further down to 6th, and suddenly the so-called Ethereum killer looked more Ethereum filler. Now, does that mean that Solana's tech is suddenly trash? It's not exactly. You got to think of XRP and Solana as two totally different power tools, right? One's a high-torque cordless drill built for cross-border payments, and the other is a super-fast table saw for NFTs, DeFi, and degens launching cat-themed meme coins at 3 cents a pop. But if investors flock to the drill while the saw sits on the shelf, well, the price charts, they don't lie. So let me rewind to the first time that I tried sending an international wire transfer for a freelancer pay. Now, 3 days of fees, forms, and forehead veins later, I swore I'd never do it again. Now that painful memory is why XRP's "move money like email" slogan resonates with me on a very spiritual level. Right? Ripple's on-demand liquidity corridor uses XRP as rocket fuel, making cross-border transfers settle in seconds. Meanwhile, of course, Solana's bragging rights are speed, and ironically, those bragging rights got overshadowed by outages last year at that kind of had users joking that the chain needed a Red Bull. But technology alone doesn't pump price. Narrative does. And XRP's narrative shifted from, at least the moment, I guess, institutional kind of whispers turned into, well, bullhorns. Now, we heard the ETF drumbeat, right? First Bitcoin, then Ethereum, and now analysts say a Solana ETF could actually arrive before an XRP ETF. It's pretty wild, right? Yet, despite that kind of forecast, Mert's tweet kind of hints that he believes the market still favors XRP today. Maybe it's the kind of cross-border payment story. Maybe it's the wave of corporate treasuries dipping their toes into the XRP-L liquidity pool. Or maybe it's traders memeing XRP to $10,000 like it's crypto's own GameStop saga. Whatever it is, the momentum torch is firmly in XRP's hand. Now, I can't stop percentages, or at least drop percentages, without kind of giving you the raw numbers behind it. So pull up a chair. Now XRP, it rolled from 50 cents last November to close the year at roughly $2.08. An over 400% sprint that left even caffeine addicts kind of feeling slow. The rally didn't slam the brakes there either. January sugar rush sent it to $3.40 before profit takers clipped its wings. Solana, for comparison though, rocketed from mid-10s to around an all-time high near 295. Yes, but the afterburners, they cooled faster than leftover pizza, bringing it well below that peak. Annual performance scoreboard, XRP 361%, Solana 150. And if you're wondering why price divergence matters, you have to consider this. In crypto, narrative shapes liquidity. Liquidity feeds development, and development lures more narrative. So it's the circle of blockchain life then, right? Cue the Lion King soundtrack. Now, when Helios Labs, a major Solana tooling company, basically shrugs and says, yeah, our favorite chain is losing the race, it kind of hints that dev confidence, at least is potentially shaking a bit like a surprise pop quiz. Now, investors, they'll notice, the devs notice, even your cousin who joined, at least just learned, I guess, actually what gas fees are, notices, right? And speaking of noticing, here's a shout out to everyone who's already hanging out in our free educational Discord server. If you're not there yet, then you're missing on the meme chart battles, the live TA sessions, and the occasional late night, is this candle real or am I sleep scrolling rants. So links in the description down below. It costs nothing, just knowledge and the occasional dad joke. All right, let's address the big scary word then, technology. Now, Merck claimed that Solana doesn't have the tech to match XRP. That's pretty spicy, right? But also kind of apples versus oranges maybe. XRP Ledger is optimized for transfers and settlements, right? Solana's kind of baking a high throughput world computer. So is he kind of really saying that XRP's infrastructure is superior, or was it just a half joke, half clickbait? Well, knowing Mert, it's actually about 70% trolling, 30% secret truth serum, right? But the market embraced the kind of sentiment like it was gospel, if you will. So let's get inside the numbers one more layer at a time then, right? XRP processes roughly 1,500 transactions per second under normal conditions, scaling up with sidechains, of course. Now, Solana, on paper at least, kind of peaks well above 2,000 TPS and claims a theoretical limit north of 50,000. Speed, while Solana wins them. Fee stability, XRP drops cost fractions of a cent, right? And Solana's fees can spike during congestion, but usually hover below a penny. So what about reliability? Is XRP's trump card here maybe? Well, it's actually Ledger, it should say that XRP's ledger, the XRPL, hasn't suffered a catastrophic halt since launch. whereas Solana's mainnet has experienced enough hiccups to warrant a Netflix docu-series. Engineers know uptime is the kind of quiet hero here, because a fast lane isn't helpful if it's closed every other Sunday. And then there's the regulatory mojo. Everyone remembers Ripple's slugfest with the SEC, when Judge Torres ruled that XRP sales on exchanges are not necessarily securities. It kind of lit a bonfire of optimism. Solana, on the other hand, found itself named in a separate SEC suit as an unregistered security, just by association with other tokens, even though no formal action targeted the Solana Foundation directly. So the fear is irrational then, but capital kind of hates uncertainty, and guess what? That uncertainty tags along like an airport luggage. Cue the soundtrack of epic disbelief when Sir Analyst Jason dropped that a top 5 bank expects a Solana ETF within months before XRP. Now that contradicts the market's current love affair with XRP, but ETFs, they aren't about feelings, they're about regulators and liquidity partners signing off. So if a Solana ETF beats XRP to Wall Street's front door, well, this leaderboard could flip faster than an altcoin on Perp Friday. But remember, the first mover isn't always the last winner. Here's a shout out to MySpace, BlackBerry, and you name it. Now, let me slide in something that you many of you actually keep DMing about, and that is the Blowfin crypto exchange. Now, I use it for quick future plays because the interface is smoother than a new jar of Skippy. Now, the link in the description down below is an affiliate link, meaning that if you sign up, it supports the channel and funds my caffeine habit. So thanks in advance. And yes, every time that I mention Blowfin, I'll remind you that it is an affiliate link because transparency is the name of the game. Okay, back to the saga. When influencers like Dustin Layton shout that 1,000 XRP could net you 50 grand, basically implying that a tidy $50 price tag per token, it kind of feeds the hive mind, right? The hope machine, it revs harder than a Lambo at a Vegas car show. But let's kind of pump the brakes and do the simple math. For XRP to hit $50, its market cap would climb to a multi-trillion-dollar territory. Now, we know that market cap is just a bit of a myth. It doesn't actually mean much, and it's definitely not going to make this whole thing impossible. Bitcoin did it first, but we would of course need a monumental amount of cash inflow and some regulatory green lights so bright that they do double up as studio lights. Then there's the religious prophecy of $10,000 XRP. Now, a former NEAR engineer basically called that belief a cult. Admittedly, a pretty passionate one. Now, I respect passion, but I also respect physics, right? And if XRP ever reaches 10 grand, its market cap leaps well beyond global GDP. Again, it's not impossible. After all, market cap is a byproduct of price, not the other way around. But at that point, we're not talking about going to the moon, are we? We're talking about neighboring galaxies. Now, could the narrative still pump the price? It sure can. Hype is a pretty magical force after all. Just ask Dogecoin about its Elon-powered liftoff, right? But physics, it usually gets the last laugh. Okay, so let's ground ourselves with some human stories then, right? Early adopter friend of mine, let's call him Dave, bought XRP at 11 cents in 2017. Forgot about it, then nearly fainted when it kissed $3 for the first time. He sold half, renovated his kitchen, and kept the rest. Fast forward to now, and Dave's watching XRP eclipse Solana and texting me, "Bro, was this luck or genius?" And honestly, it's a little bit of both, right? The genius was holding through the courtroom soap opera. The luck was the SEC timing, right? Now, Dave kind of personalized this challenge that every investor, trader kind of faces, right? It's distinguishing the conviction from the stubbornness. Now, speaking of challenges, dev talent is the lifeblood of any chain. Solana has killer hackathons, right? I've attended one, and they kind of practically hand you an energy drink at the door. But XRPL is ramping dev grants, side chains, and hooks. So if the momentum keeps swinging towards XRP, well, we might see a brain drain as coders chase grant money. And when builders migrate, dApps migrate, liquidity migrates, and you get a feedback loop faster than Twitter drama on a Monday morning. Now that, in my view, is the real technological edge that 𝗏 is actually probably hinting at. Now, community traction plus uptime equals network effect. And network effect, it beats raw TPS numbers any day. Still, I am not going to be sat here at this desk trying to call a winner, right? I'm here to just unpack all of this mess so that you can decide which side you stand on, right? At least the side of the seesaw, right? You've got the XRP side of the seesaw, you've got the Solana side, or of course you can just grab some popcorn and record TikToks of the swing. Now remember, that December flippening? Well, history says that coins trade places more often than my dog hides my socks. Now, market caps, they're just snapshots. They are not marble statues. Ethereum once looked unstoppable at number 2. Now, we've got whispers that ETH could actually lose the silver medal status to multiple rivals if its roadmap drags. So as we kind of inch towards, the end of this video, and as we start Q3 or quarter 3, we should keep an eye on 2 catalysts. The first one, of course, is the official ETF filings. Any 19B-4 approval for Solana or XRP will rocket the search trends. The second thing here is that Ripple's enterprise partnerships, right? Each new bank that plugs into XRP's on-demand liquidity is like a new set of, at least new Starbucks, I guess, on your block, right? Traffic will spike overnight. And simultaneously, you also need to watch Solana's mainnet uptime, like you'll kind of check your phone's battery, right? One more hiccup and 𝗏's tweet could become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, before we wrap up here, let's do a quick lightning stats round so you can be there at the water cooler to flex, right? XRP's daily volume is around $4 billion lately, right? Give or take a weekend slump. Solana is roughly 60% of that, despite a larger DeFi footprint. Now that tells you that inflows, they are not just about the decentralized experiment. They're actually about investors rotating into what feels safe, what feels liquid, and litigation tempered, if you will. Also, XRP's volatility index, it recently dropped lower than Solana's, meaning that traders view XRP as a steadier and sturdier ship right now, which attracts bigger whales who fear, sudden 10% wicks. There's also a psychological lesson here, right? When a chain's loudest champion concedes defeat, even in jest, it kind of plants a seed of doubt. Doubt can, of course, slow dev velocity. It can slow VC funding, and it can speed up competitor adoption. So remember BlackBerry's CEO who was laughing at the iPhone? Well, you can fast forward. BlackBerry is now a cyber security footnote, and Apple is printing money by the minute. Now, I'm not saying that Solana is heading to the fossil museum, but narrative momentum is a houseplant, and if you don't water it, it will wilt. Okay, if you're feeling the whiplash, you are not alone, right? Crypto never sleeps, and neither do the hot takes. And that is why our free crypto Discord is a sanity lifeline. You should hop in, you can share charts, you can remind each other to touch grass. And if you're trading this volatility, you got to consider Blowfin with that affiliate link down below. The fees are low, and every sign up tosses a coin into the content treasury so that we can keep bringing you these deep dives. Okay, let's land the plane then, right? 𝗏's viral tweet. It's actually less about Solana's tech specs and more about market perception. XRP's recent outperformance, backed by resilient ledger uptime, favorable court headlines, and institutional flirting, has actually painted a pretty big target on Solana's chest. Meanwhile, of course, Solana's devs tooling and potential ETF catalysts keep them in the conversation. So the next few quarters might actually deliver a plot twist worthy of a Netflix binge. But For now, XRP holds the megaphone and the scorecard. And if you're mapping your own crypto journey, remember, you're the captain of that ship. Whether you're team drill, team soar, or team I hold both because diversification takes the victory, track the fundamentals, watch the liquidity, and stay nimble. So, what do you think? Is 𝗲 onto something here? Or is this the greatest troll since the Trojan horse? You can drop your takes in the comments down below. You can binge the other breakdowns next. And because YouTube's algorithm loves it, smash that like and subscribe so that you don't miss the next plot twist.